So today we're going to talk about boundaries and why we need to draw the line when it comes to boundaries. I work with high achieving people. That's my main demographic. I work with people that want a lot out of life, but often allow their psychology or their past get in their own way. And that's okay. That's a normal part of life. That's a normal part of developing. Sometimes we just are stuck. But I think a great thing to help people feel more secure and feel more content with life is to have healthy boundaries. But high achieving people desire to have it all with the least amount of conflict. And they want to make sure that no one gets hurt in the process of them getting to their goals. But in that process, they leave themselves out. Like you're a person that could get help. So, I'm sorry, get hurt. And so saying that I don't want anybody to get hurt when I do my thing is really not being realistic. It's one thing to be intentional with your hurt. It's another thing for pain to just be the result of something not working. And so making sure that you become more comfortable with setting boundaries is an important part of self-development. And you have to think about it. Over time, if you're not in the habit of setting boundaries, if people designate what is enough for you or where the line is for you, your sense of self can become distorted. You can really lose who you are. And other people's needs and desires become primary to you. And so today I want to talk about why it's hard to draw the line and what actually happens when we set boundaries on the positive end. I do have a question. So what area of boundaries do you know for sure that you got that down? People cannot try you when it comes to that. Whether it's time, whether it's with your money, whether it's with your property, when you're dating, like where in your life are boundaries like on point? So when you get a sec, drop that in the comments. Okay, so moving on. The first thing you need to know is that healthy boundaries, when a boundary is working, somebody's going to get hurt. And the only person that's going to get hurt is the one that can't accept it. So healthy boundaries only hurt those that can't accept them. Something that I'm learning more and more is that the truth hurts. I know we say it all the time, but the truth actually hurts somebody. Now, it doesn't have to if people accept it, but think about it. Let me give you an example. So say you give someone a compliment. If that person has low self-esteem, that compliment's going to hurt them in a way because they don't really believe what you're saying. They have doubt. And so even though your intentions were good and kind and wanting to make them feel good, it hurt. But it's the truth. They're truly smart or as beautiful or as you see because it's the truth to you, but it's not the truth to that other person and they can't accept it. And even if they can't accept a compliment, maybe they have healthy self-esteem and they're like, thank you so much. I worked really hard. I tried today. And so I've gotten a compliment or two and it's thank you. I really wanted to present myself as a certain way and I'm glad that it's being recognized. So this is a true thing. But that's how haters are born. It's a third party, somebody that's not even in the exchange that feel like the truth isn't the truth. And so they're hurt by it. And they make it their mission to make sure that everybody else is hurt by it, including you, because they're a hater. That's the role they've taken, except instead of seeing somebody else's truth as not a threat to them. But yeah, the truth hurts someone at some point, and you have to accept that. But being able to set your boundary and exist in your truth is a right. And it's something that you have to do in order for yourself to be the high achieving person that you want to be. One of my boundaries, I'm not going to pick up the phone unless I know you're going to call. It's messed up, but unless you're like my friend or something. But even then, if I am preoccupied, the phone is not one of those things that becomes a priority to me. And so once somebody understands that, they respect it. But when they can't accept it, that becomes a problem. But it's not hurting me because I'm not picking up the phone still. I can turn my ringer off. It won't affect my day because I know where my boundary is. And so being able to accept that fact that a healthy boundary is going to hurt somebody hopefully will take some of the pressure off of feeling like you can't set boundaries because you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I promise you something's going to hurt someone's feelings, even if it's not you. So you might as well live in your truth and let them deal with the consequences of that. Avoiding pain, I know, is a natural part of living, but pain is a natural part of living. And so if we can accept pain at a low level, we don't have to wait until things become this big issue and then we can't handle it anymore. And now we're all blowing up and now everybody's getting hurt, even though the truth is coming out in a raw, unfiltered way to where it's hard for anyone to accept. So you have to think about the long game too when you're trying to set a healthy boundary, because if somebody's going to get hurt, I might as well hurt them at a low intensity when it's manageable and we can negotiate, or wait until I can't take it anymore and then I'm going off on everybody and now I'm hurting my relationships. So, hey, healthy boundaries are going to hurt someone. All right, next point is having a healthy boundary means you have to cover a lot of bases, and that takes work. Knowing the different areas of your life that you need boundaries is important, which is why I asked, what areas of your life do you know you have down pat? Whether it's with your business, whether it's with your work schedule, your work-life barriers, because there's no such thing as work-life balance. I tell you, there needs to be a line between your work and your life. Even someone like myself that owns their own business, there's still a barrier between who I am at work, what I do at work, and what I do when I'm at home. And I have to deal with those consequences because I'm responsible. Same thing with your job. Even within your work life, there's different boundaries, whether it's with your superiors versus people that are under you, subordinates, and even people across. If you have two employees at the same level, it is not one employee's job to tell someone else that they're not working hard enough or that they're not doing enough. Yes, it can be annoying, but that's a violation. And so being able to understand those boundaries for yourself is going to just make you a better person to work with too. The boundary area that I think most people are comfortable with talking about the most is like physical boundaries, because we can see them unless you're a person without sight, and then you can at least feel the physical form of the thing that is being violated. And I think physical boundaries are not just your body. They're also your property, like I mentioned earlier. They're an extension of you and your physical world, and the physical world that you have control over. So that's your car, that's your house, that's your favorite pair of shoes. It can be anything that you possess. Now, sometimes we get the boundaries when it comes to people as physical boundaries. We don't own people. And we hopefully will not own people ever again. So even like your children, they are an extension of you, but it's more of a relational boundary when you're protecting your children. Like, my job in the relationship is to provide safety for this helpless, defenseless human, and making sure that you understand these different areas. Because all it takes is one missed area for someone to be violated in a very bad way, and it's hard to come back from it. And with physical boundaries, they're not as easy as we think too, because at the end of the day, they impact our psychology and our mental state. Mental boundaries or intellectual boundaries or emotional boundaries, they all are similar, but not really. So I put them under the umbrella of like mental boundaries. So your emotions and then your thinking, because we think and we feel, and they're actually not in the same part of our brain, so they're actually two separate processes. And I can have an intellectual boundary about the topics I talk about, how I share my knowledge, how someone talks to me. All of those things that affect how I think about myself are intellectual boundaries. And emotional boundaries, again, things that affect how I feel about myself. So I can talk about a certain topic, something that may be taboo, but it doesn't mean I have to give personal details that are emotionally triggering about said topic. And having those mental boundaries for yourself, I'll talk about this thing, but I won't talk about myself when it comes to this thing, is important too. You have time boundaries. You have, of course, sexual boundaries, which aren't necessarily the same as physical boundaries, because your sexual self is a combination of your physical self, your intellectual self, and your emotional self. And so taking the time to think about those things and really have a clear idea of where the line is in your life, you got to cover your bases, because again, one unlocked door can wreck something. One place unchecked can get somebody in your life that can like wreak havoc on your sense of self. Being aware of the different areas of your life, covering all your bases, is very important with healthy boundaries. Okay, and just for the record, covering my bases, if you aren't following me on social media, If you aren't liking posts that you see or liking these videos and you say you care about me, emotional boundaries, I feel some type of way, about it. And the way is, I want you to know that I do this out of both desire, but understanding that the information needs to be out there. A million people could be saying the same thing, and it's going to hit different depending on who's saying it. And so making sure that you're following these things that I'm doing really helps me stay motivated to do it, because I don't like to waste my breath. That's one of my boundaries too. My job is to give of myself, give of the deepest parts of me when I'm helping clients. And it's a very painful thing, again, the truth hurts, that I'm giving and it's not being received. And so my call to action is, hey, show some support. I need the motivation just like anybody else does, because this stuff isn't easy. All right, so last point for our talk on drawing the line. At the end of the day, we love to say that, at the end of the day, not really at the end of the day, every day, all day, if you have healthy boundaries, you're going to be living a life that has a lot more freedom. And yeah, it sounds weird, right? Okay, I'm drawing a line and then I'm free. No, because every one of us is a spirit inside of a physical form. So we're in a boundary as it is. Our souls are contained. And so being contained, but also having space, is essential to being human. And so being able to know in your environment outside of your body what you have control over, what you can handle, what you are comfortable with, what you aren't comfortable with, is super important. And once you operate in that way and don't really have to think about it, you create boundaries that are like the default, like, all right, cool, that's my line. You don't have to think about it anymore. It just becomes a part of you, and you become more free. You become a more relaxed version of yourself because you know who you are and what you stand for. And even in relationships, something I tell couples a lot of the times is that commitment is not supposed to feel like you're trapped. It's actually supposed to be an opportunity for you to feel more free to be yourself. So that freedom comes from knowing that you'll be loved no matter what, and no matter who you are, and no matter who you present as. And if your relationship feels like you're trapped, there's some part of your existence that isn't being accepted and isn't free to be what it is, and you haven't expressed what you need, which is a boundary, to that partner. And seeing boundaries as a path to freedom hopefully is a way to motivate yourself that, okay, yeah, I've been letting this thing go for way too long and I feel trapped and constrained, and you don't have to feel that way. You don't have to live that way. You can create freedom for yourself by understanding what's within your control. And the way that the world's going, with all these things changing in our economy and us wanting change in our legal system and in the way our government treats us, you got to take care of what you can and understand where the line is for yourself, because if you don't, you're going to lose your mind in this world. And at what cost? If you don't take the time to set those boundaries and you're feeling trapped and you're wanting to be nice and you're wanting to be liked, at what cost? Niceness is just us acting in an obligatory way. We're acting in the way that we think we should act. And if you've ever worked with me, shoulds make you feel shouldy. They make you feel bad. They make you feel guilty, or they make you want to rebel and do the opposite. But they don't actually motivate you to do anything. And so what I need to do, what I want to do, what I could do, what I would like to do, that's a kind way of thinking of things, because you're creating your own intention. If this person is disrespectful to me, I can, quote unquote, kill them with kindness. I really don't like that phrase. But I can respond with kindness, and at the same time, in that kindness, I'm giving them my boundary. I don't appreciate the way you're talking to me. That's not how you show me respect. I would prefer if you ABCD. You set the boundary, and then you give a consequence, which, okay, I'll talk about this more in detail in another session, but it's hard to talk about boundaries without talking about how to set them. But today, that's all we're talking about. So, in conclusion, we draw the line in relationships, in our lives, in our personal selves. We set boundaries because we have to. And the reason boundaries are hard to set is because a healthy boundary is going to hurt somebody. And the truth hurts sometimes, but we have to accept that And then once we've accepted that, we cover all our bases. We make sure that as many areas of our lives as we can, we set boundaries and we know where our boundary is, so that when that boundary is violated, we know what to do. And if we don't know, you're going to find out at some point that boundary is going to be violated, and then you're going to have to cover that base. But at the end of the day, if we do that, we're going to have more freedom in our lives. Our lives can feel more free because we know where our line is, and we can just automatically operate within our own system that we've created for ourselves. What you won't do, you know what you will do. And sometimes that can change by situation, but to take ownership of that process is really what I'm encouraging you to do today. Continue to follow on Epiphany Lane. I will be introducing a coaching program later in the summer. It's all about finding your purpose. So it's called Pathway to Purpose. And covering your bases is one of our classes that I'll be presenting, and I'll literally go through every different type of boundary, and we'll work through what the boundary could be. What does it look like in this area of my life, and get down to the nuance of it, because that's a hard process to do your own. I'm not gonna lie. I'm telling you, hey, just go sit and cover all your bases. But it's something that we sometimes need help with. So if you're not in therapy, or you're not seeing a coach, or you hate journaling, this kind of course may be a good option for you to really dig deep and really come out of it having a very clear sense of who you are and understanding your purpose. So I'll keep you abreast of that in the future Epiphany sessions. But to close, I appreciate the time. Next week, I will have an Epiphany Love session, which is one of my conversations on relationships. I'll be hosting that live on Facebook in my Love on Epiphany Lane group, and also on my personal Facebook page, as well as on Epiphany Lane on Instagram. So I appreciate your time. This has been Tiffany Lindley with On Epiphany Lane. Peace on the journey. Bye. Y'all have a great day.